So I'm here with Charles M. Klein. He's the filmmaker behind Frankenfriend.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Really lovely to meet you. If you could just give us a brief synopsis of your film.
Sure. It is, of course, it's called Frankenfriend. It's inspired by the Frankenstein story. And it's about a young girl, sort of an introvert and outcast, who gets bullied.
Yeah.
And but she's a little bit of a scientist, a little child genius, as it were. And so she decides to fight back against her bullies by creating a Frankenstein monster to frighten them off. So that's pretty much the gist of the story right there.
Thank you. And it's without sort of giving away the genre by looking at your shirt. Seriously, but seriously, the horror genre is your kind of bag, if that makes sense. I think.
Yes, I've always been drawn to horror. It's what I grew up. Growing up in the early 1980s, watched a lot of horror. My grandfather took me to a lot of horror films, and I used to stay up late and watch them on cable. But I've always liked the classic monsters for some reason.
Well, like the Bela Lugosi's and
absolutely,
Lon
Chaney. Boris Karloff. They were always my favorite. I even cried when I saw the original Frankenstein as a child, and the Frankenstein monster was trapped in the burning room.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I've seen.
So, I guess I have sympathy for the monsters.
And to be fair, the look of this film is very much in keeping with that style, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I've obviously seen the film.
So, what I had to do with the film initially is I entered it into a contest. Called the Small and Creepy Film Contest, which was sponsored by the Boomtown Film and Music Festival in Beaumont, Texas.
Right.
But
is this completely random? You just thought, this is the first one I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Frankly, maybe you knew a little bit about it, but you just thought, I'm going to give it a try and see what happens.
Sure. And what was interesting is that Caroline Thompson, who wrote Edward Scissorhands and Nightmare Before Christmas,
yeah, you mentioned,
she was actually involved with the creation of this contest and was supposed to score the entries. So I had a month to write the script and come up with the and create the set and bring actors in and bring a crew in to film this. And unfortunately, she was never able to finish watching all the entries because something had come up.
Sorry, so you had you decided you wanted to enter, had no film to enter, and that's when the penny dropped and you thought, okay, I've got a month to do this, I'm going to put this together.
Absolutely. In about 4 weeks.
Okay, so you might have a concept, I don't know, but did you even have a concept?
I think I sort of had an inkling of an idea, but nothing fully fleshed out or formed.
Okay, so you've never made a film before, or have you been involved in?
So I did a little bit of film. I did special effects for some friends of mine for a full-length feature film we made when we were over in Italy, and then I did a short film when I was in college. I actually just wrote the script, and my friends actually directed it, and it was about the day in the life of a werewolf called Living with Lycanthropy. So this Frankenfriend sort of continues that classic monster tradition. It was shot in black and white, and so. But this is my directorial debut, where I actually wrote it and produced it, and went the whole. Even did some of the visual effects and
because actually the effects are really. Actually, I thought were really well done. Especially after I looked at it again when we spoke, and I was just going through the film again.
Yes.
So I kind of understood some of the history. But just getting back to this again, so 4 weeks to go, you had kind of a concept.
Yes.
Weren't you thinking, without kind of making a play on words here, that you're sort of biting off more than you can chew, or did that not cross your mind?
You know what? I actually did realize this. I knew I was a bit out of my league, but I knew because Caroline Thompson, I just love her work tremendously. Edward Scissorhands,
fantastic, iconic film. It's an incredible film, even now.
Yeah, the loners, the outcasts, but they're just so beautiful, you know, and you know, and you feel very, very deeply and profoundly for these, you know, lost characters. And so I just I really knew that I had to submit something. And Frankenfriend seemed like the perfect idea.
But so again, because I'm fascinated by this, you've got this 4 weeks, you've got to get the money, you've got to get the equipment, perhaps you've got some of the equipment, you've got to think about the sound, you've got to think about the design, you've got to think about the cast, the editing, the everything.
Yes.
So how did you pull all this? Because I do realise you've done a lot of the work to this, but even so, it's not, let's be honest, most films are not one-man bands. They need collaboration. So talk me through how you managed to bring all this. I really need some help. I don't know how you did it.
Absolutely. So for the actors, because I needed 3 bullies in the tween, you know, age, and I needed, of course, my main star, Hattie McLean, and then, of course, I needed my Frankenstein monster, and I had the perfect coworker at the time, and a very, very tall, statuesque man, you know, just very intimidating. But he was just so nice, you wouldn't even think, you know, and just kind of towered over me. And it was his daughter that had actually done some plays and things like that. And
this sounds like
her friends. He literally, orchestrated the whole thing with his daughter and her friends as my actors. So that took care of that. Then I needed, of course, a cinematographer. Now I already had a Canon Rebel DSLR camera.
So you had a decent camera.
And I had some lighting equipment, so I actually sent out a message to an acquaintance that I had met on the set of another short film I did some special effects for, just makeup effects. And he was my DP, and I asked him, his name is Dewey Tron, and I said, hey Dewey, I really need, you know, I remember you from this film, and you were great, you know, with your camera, so can you help out? And he's like, wow. Okay, sure. And he had actually shot some music videos, and played drums in a metal band, you know.
So he did he knew the gig again. He had the experience to come on board and help with this.
And then I called another friend of mine whom I'd worked on when I was over in Italy, and who also now lives in Maryland. And I was like, hi Tom, I need your help. And he's just sort of like the jack of all trades. He'll do, you know, anything on set. He got dry ice for me, you know.
You are so lucky.
Just like
you really
literally.
Are.
And we had 4 hours to shoot on a Saturday because all the kids showed up. Everyone was there. And of course the kids, you know, with kids it's very itinerant, right? You can't keep them there too long. And pretty much I had my house and my garage where I spent my evenings after work literally building the set inside of my 500 square foot garage, you know, the laboratory scene.
Again, with the clock ticking down.
Yes. So I was buying plastic shelves at Home Depot and putting cardboard over the faces of them and then spraying them with metallic paint and then punching lights into them. And then I brought another friend of mine, a Tom Savini School graduate, Michael Conlon, to help me out with set design and some makeup on the monster. He didn't have time to do the full makeup on the monster because we just didn't have time. But if you look at, when you see the monster's hand, you know, in the film on the shoulder, you can see his very careful stitching that he did with mortician's wax.
Right, okay, that's how he done it.
And he just happened to have a half skull mask in the back of his car to put over the monster's face. And
again, I'm well aware the clock's still ticking down all the time. Is it getting to the point, because you're either going to get to the point of no return when you have to do it,
absolutely,
or you're going to do it and it's going to be not what you wanted to do, or you're going to get close and pull the plug. So I mean, I suppose in each of these different scenarios. Right. Let's talk about, was there, perhaps the last one first, did you ever get to a point and think, I just can't do this, it's just too close? Or can we dismiss that out of hand?
You know what? I absolutely dismissed that idea.
Right, okay.
I was like, I'm going to do this no matter what. And the day after we filmed, we had exactly 7 days to do the editing. And then I also had to get my narrator, who recorded all the narration from his house and just sent me the files. And then I got the music files together and sent them to my friend Tom Ferguson, who did the editing, who helped me out on the set.
Yeah.
He's got a full editing suite.
You got some great friends. Because
Yes.
I'm being funny.
I know.
You would have been a bit shafted without all this, really, wouldn't you?
Seriously. So, and and I drove up to his house. He did a rough cut during the week, and then that Saturday we submitted. I drove out to his house in Frederick, Maryland, and we just sat down together for a few hours and put together a black and white cut that we submitted to the contest, and I actually won second place.
Oh, that's brilliant. Really well done.
And then sort of reworked it after the fact and sort of gave it the teal tint that it has now and reworked some of the
the look that
editing
you,
and sound,
yeah.
and just did a couple things that I really wanted to do. Like there's a quick shot of a basement and lights flashing, and I edited that into the film, when Hattie pulls the switch, and so it looks like she's
You get the
operating
effect.
on
Yeah.
the basement. So,
And do you think, well, is it as exhilarating, or maybe that's the wrong word? Maybe it's more painful. I don't know. I'm trying to.
yes.
What I'm trying to get from you is, in the round, perhaps. Does the end justify the means? Looking back, was it an incredible time? Was it hard? I mean, I'm trying to get your sort of take on the whole thing.
Absolutely. I mean, yes. There were things I wish I could have done different. I just didn't have the time. Yes, it was crazy. I even I had a panic attack. When I was.
I couldn't do it.
When
There's no way
when
I
I
could
was
do it.
doing it, but. It was very daunting, very challenging, but I was so relieved once my friend and I hit the submission button and it was sent off. And I'd sent a couple of clips beforehand, on social media, tagging the Boomtown Film and Music Festival in Beaumont, Texas, and their small and creepy film contest.
And film festivals love this, actually.
And they actually retweeted
it.
So I felt like I had a little bit of traction along the way to help give me that boost.
And when you, it's just going a long way back now, because
Absolutely.
I know you were in the military, and I'm trying to understand, because everyone has dreams, of course, and aspirations, but this is something that you want to do for a long time. When did the bug kind of hit you, and how did that all come about? And do you wish you'd started doing it earlier?
So I do wish I'd started doing it earlier. However, I always wanted to be a writer from when I was a teenager.
Right.
I pictured myself as a short story writer or novelist, perhaps. But I've always
Perfect.
been like a visual person. So I've always been drawing and doing art.
Yeah.
But then so I was in the military, I was in the Navy for almost 15 years. And I got stationed in Italy for 3 years in Naples.
What a drag!
Right?
What a drag!
Oh, poor me.
But when you got the posting, you was
military
like, Italy? What? Really?
But it's really bizarre because I was doing some makeup effects, and that's because I really love doing monster makeup, and I thought myself as doing makeup as being a makeup effects artist and going after that, and I actually got pulled into a project that I met a group of friends.
This is while you're in Italy?
While I'm in Italy.
Right, okay.
And I helped I did special effects for a full-length feature film, horror film that we did over there called The Suffered.
No.
And we actually had put on this big premiere and had several hundred people show up in this small Italian town outside of Naples and had local Italian press come out. It was like a really big thing.
So during this, is this the point you're thinking at some point when you're getting involved in this film, actually I really love doing this, I really want this to be my career?
Absolutely.
Right.
I think that was really the turning point, just being there, with these incredible people. We filmed in catacombs, we filmed in, just in, this like old, enormous wine cellar and just, really fantastic places, and just being a part of that group, that you're creating something, you're doing all these amazing things that you never thought you would do, and just being part of this larger thing. But I kind of picture myself as doing special makeup effects, but then the writing thing just kind of kicked in. So after I left Italy and got out of the military, I got a creative writing Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Full Sail University.
Wow, really well done.
But then it was a creative writing BFA, creative writing for entertainment BFA rather. So it was specifically geared towards
this,
absolutely.
to films, yeah.
And once I got my feet wet, that's it. I was hooked, and I got to actually make a film for one of my classes that got a student award and got into 5 film festivals while I was only in my second semester there.
That's so good.
And so I was working full time and then going to school online through Full Sail and then doing the film thing, and from then on I was like, that's it, I want to do film.
And I've met so many people that have moved from careers completely, I might have mentioned this earlier, but accountants, lawyers, military, as I suggested, but not to the degree that the way you've done in terms of it is such a leap from what you've done to. Yes. No, well, like I said, they might have done documentaries about being in the military or narrative features that are based on their time there. So, but this is something like radically different that I've not sort of come across before. So I'm wondering if even going back further, the creative bug was kind of there from a long way back.
It must have been. It must have been the influence of just watching all those films as a kid and growing up I watched a lot of MTV. I watched a lot of music videos. So I was very, I guess, the visual aspect of things were ingrained in me even when I was young, and just, creating pictures and whatnot. I guess it just sort of all coalesced over time into, what it is now.
And are you happy? I mean, with the short time frame, it must be hard to ever be able to predict how this is going to turn out. But you are happy. Presumably, you're very happy with the finished project.
I am very happy
because you didn't know, right? But it's kind of like throw the dice.
Right. It is
a little bit, isn't it?
So yes, yes. I only had the money, that I was able to put into it from my own pocket, right? So I didn't have time to do anything else. I'm happy with the way it turned out, with what I was able to do at the time.
Yeah.
Yes, if I had a dream, it would be nice to do a large, production, even if it's still 5 minutes, with like a full-fledged laboratory and everything you would imagine it would be from the old Hollywood films.
I suppose the killer is of all these things, when any filmmaker I talk to, and yours is a really good case in point, if I ask them what they had more of, obviously more money, but away and above from that, most of them will say time. Because I'm quite sure if you'd had 8 weeks or 12 weeks. So the point I'm trying to make is, I'm guessing you've got other projects you're thinking about, and perhaps you can tell us about them, but I suppose the big deal with them will be, you're not going to do it in 4 weeks, you need more time, I suspect. Because it must have been, I guess, I don't know you, but I guess you had sleepless nights.
I did.
Literally had sleepless nights.
I did, and even when I was in school, and I did because each class, the program I was in was accelerated because it was online. So I had 4 weeks for each class, and even the werewolf film I did in that one, that I just wrote it and acted it. I had my roommate help me out with filming and all that, and sound and editing and everything.
Yeah.
I did it in 4 weeks as well. So it was like 0 to finished product, and yes, and with anything, especially Frankenfriend, if I had more time, I would have definitely focused more on the laboratory scene, and actually working, getting some better performances out of my young actors.
Oh no, I thought they'd done really, really well. And if, you know, to give you your due, I think, apart from the fact you've got this very short time scale, even if you were making a film with just 3 people in it, that you were set in the modern age, it wasn't a horror that was in one room, that's going to be hard, isn't it? Because people that are away from the industry really don't understand. I understand, obviously, just how difficult it is to put a film together. I mean, for instance, a filmmaker I wrote, it was a brilliant way to put it. He said, write down "it rains" on paper. How long will it take? 2 seconds. Now go and film that, because you're going to need a rain machine. You've got to get the cast. You've got to get the crew. Is it going to be at night? And suddenly your eyes are open. You suddenly think, yeah, he's right, because just those 2 words, trying to film it, is going to be a mission, isn't it?
Yes.
So, I guess what I'm trying to suggest is, it would be hard enough to make a film with just 3 characters without all the set being built and the look that you wanted this film, let alone actually trying to push it together with everything you desperately wanted to happen in the film. So you could have chosen it to be less grief-stricken, but you did it the way you did it because you wanted it to have the look that it ended up having. So
absolutely.
I admire that. I think it's brilliant. You know, just
you know,
does that make sense?
Absolutely does. And since, you know, I knew I was probably going to have my, you know, actors for limited time. I didn't want them trying to rehearse lines or anything. So that's why I went with the voiceover narration. So it's almost like a visual storybook. Yeah,
because that will help in terms of the time as well, I guess, won't it?
Absolutely.
So, that's interesting. So had you had, for instance, let's assume you'd had 6 or 8 weeks to make this film. Still, it's not a great deal of time. Would you have dropped the narration then?
I would have supplemented the narration.
Okay.
I would have had, you know, some, the actors maybe say a few lines here and there, but by the most part, I would have kept in I definitely would have kept the narration.
Right.
Just broken it up.
Okay. Okay. And what is there you're working on at the moment? What project or projects are you looking at? Horrors, presumably.
So, yeah. So I just submitted a short script and short story and storyboards rather to a contest called the AT&T Create-a-thon.
Right.
So the results come out next week as to who gets selected for the second round, because the 64 teams are being picked.
Right.
And each of those 64 teams gets 3 hours to shoot at Warner Brothers Studios.
No.
The first weekend in June.
Wow.
So once again, you know, it's
heart in the mouth.
That's you just go for it. And then I have a short script that I wrote based on a radio play I'd written called Transmission Unknown, about a guy who goes on a night drive. And he's being haunted by his radio.
Right, okay. That sounds interesting.
Sort of like a visual and oral feast, if you were.
So that would be, not to demean what you're doing, but that would be presumably a one-person in-car.
Absolutely.
Not that you could, obviously it still looks slick, but it is a single person.
Absolutely.
Boy.
Aside from the female character that starts, you know.
Boy, that's got to have sharp dialogue. That's going to have really got to be, because it's all on one, isn't it? Really.
Yes. So the radio play was actually performed at the Chicago Music Box Theater for the Wild Claw Theater Company's first Death Scribe radio play contest in 2008, and I got second place there. And then a couple years later, got picked up by the Shoestring Radio Theater in San Francisco. Produced by them. So my dream is really doing, you know, so this would be like my first short film that I can actually concentrate on, where I'm not rushing for time, and I can take my time and, you know, take the right steps and get the right crew together and get a really great sound designer.
Because sound is the big thing, and I know it's the huge thing. And again, talking to a lot of filmmakers, sound is I don't want to say it's overlooked, because I understand at times Arrow and you're making short films, but you know, I know from talking to a lot of filmmakers, it's such a big thing that they wish they'd done it differently.
Absolutely.
Because you just don't know.
No.
You just don't know just how important it is. That's it, Charles. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
for that.
much. I really appreciate your time, sir.